Down. Hi there. We're playing with BreakTweaker. Okay, I'll stop. Hi there. My name is John Skippy Limcool. And we're doing something kind of special for this. This is a power review of BreakTweaker. I'm going to go through the specification, play some patches, and then we're going to make something basically from scratch so you can see how it works all in one review. Now, this is kind of like a supporting video for a review that I've written for a magazine. So if you're being sent from that review, I want to welcome you and thank you for taking the time to watch this. I have been a programmer for Korg synthesizers since 1988, 25 years. And I've worked on a lot of other software-based synthesizers along the way. I have a website called PlugInGuru where you can go buy patches for all sorts of different software-based synthesizers. And check out my channel because there's a ton of free videos teaching you how to program and get into these synthesizers that are right here on the YouTube channel or on my website, PlugInGuru.com. For the products that I support. I believe in supporting with free video tutorials, and hopefully you are appreciative for the time spent and the knowledge shared and you buy some patches. So it's a win-win for everybody. You get patches to write with, you get knowledge, and I make a little bit of money to keep doing this. Okay, so let's take a look at BreakTweaker. This is the second plugin in a partnership between BT and Isotope. The first one is Stutter Edit. Stutter Edit was different in that it's real-time manipulation of an audio stream that you feed into it. It doesn't make any sounds itself unless you set it to where you're doing the transition sounds and there's a really cool special effects section inside of Stutter Edit. But this has a sound engine built into it for BreakTweaker. You don't have to configure it and have a sidechain sending audio into it. There's an engine built into BreakTweaker. So you just call it up as BreakTweaker on your DAW on an instrument channel and start working with it. So it's 6 tracks simultaneously being played. And the way it's laid out for playing, you trigger it by playing notes on your keyboard. The bottom 6 notes will play the samples. The next octave up is where you start playing and triggering these patterns. And there's 24 total for one master preset. And so when you play C right here, you see the sequenced information here. And as you go to C sharp instead of C, so you have the ability to just simply double click to make things go away. You can also click and drag to make an event longer. You can click at the top and drag down to change the velocity or the level of the sound. When you click on an event and it opens up this, what's called the micro edit, and the micro edit for each event that you see here on the screen allows you to quickly do some mind-blowing things that aren't really available, or else if they are, it takes a lot more work and it's not as detailed what you can do to them. This is where this program really shines. And if you need to do some manipulative things like this, there's really nowhere else to go. I mean, there's not a lot of easy places I can think of to do that quickly. And making that from that sample to with just a couple parameter settings is priceless. I'm jumping in. I'd actually finished the video and I came back and went, well, I want to do something really quick. I want to make sure that you guys really understand what the cool features of BreakTweaker is. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to load up. This is a fun patch to play with. And I went to the load kit only option after saying new. Nice greenish text. And that means that it loaded up just the kit. And it didn't load any of the preset patterns up. So I have the sounds on the keyboard and a blank slate to play with. Because I want to show you the cool features. So let's take this and just, your normal step sequence editor is like this. You just click and play in. There's eighth notes, right? You can control velocity. What's unique with BreakTweaker is if you click on one of these, it opens up a micro editor where you can see some parameters that you can change for that one event. This is what makes it unique to other step sequencer type rhythm interfaces. So let's take this, and instead of being 1, let's have it play 6. So in that 16th note little blip, now if I click like this, I've doubled the length of it, so it's going to spread out those 6 over time differently. Also, if I have turned on the sync button and I slow it down, that glitch has a different timing to it, right? So there's a number of different ways besides divisions that you can divide up how it's going to divide up and how it's going to play this. Pitch is actually, it's going to play at a fixed pitch. And that's really cool. Double click to remove. Let's have this one go for this long of a time. And it now still plays that same pitch, but for a longer time. So now I'm going to start showing you some other options that are available here. Even with pitch, there's things like tension, which you can, and since we're dealing with, no matter what your settings here it is, when you start dealing with tension, you lose straight pitch because it's going from slow to super fast or fast to super slow. As you can see, now it's going to go really fast to slow. So all the time that you're hearing all these patterns going, all it is setting up one parameter for the type and tension. It's that easy to do. But what's cool is if you actually go digging here, you'll find, let's see, no tension. So there's all these different types of curves, and some of them do some really unique things. Different melody things. And so if you made this the full length, and if you go into the editor and you change to different samples, I didn't mention this even in the printed review, there's not a noise generator built into BreakTweaker, but there is a ton of different noise samples to choose from, all sorts of different noises that are really, really cool. So that's another place that's really fun to play with. Let's do this. Let's make this go back to time. And now if I set this to this timing value, let's go up here and make this the BT curve. So that way it's steady. So this is noise. There's a looping, which you can turn on, which is useful for making things loop. And all these types of noises and the other elements that are like synthesizer based, the loop typically is a crossfade loop that they've created, which is nice. So it automatically will loop. So if we go over here to divisions and keep going, I also want to show you the speed. So let's say 16th notes, 32nd notes. Choose a, and then the gate also is varied depending on what slope you use. And gate is the opening of time. So let's say 16th notes. So you can do really cool things like that. Go the other way where it's give everything a little tail. So you have all sorts of parameters to get timing things that are just really intricate. If you set retrigger off, by the way, it's just gating. It's doing the gate like stutter edit to the sound. On top of this, you have the ability to add fade in, fade out, and That's really useful. Fade out. And the curvature is really important because you can set so it's like. How do you want it to fade out with this effect? And then finally you have aliasing. And if you want, you could take this and cut this to half length and copy and paste and have each one be a different. Some other things that are really cool. Let's go into the editor, to the envelope, and make these long for both of the layers. So the snare rings nice and long. And let's add an event right here by click, and then control click on this and make it choke. So you can choke. Let's go choke, choke. So you can do unique things like that as well. It's very powerful. There's a lot of fun stuff to play with. So I just wanted to make sure you saw and understood a little bit more about the parameters inside of the micro edit, because that's the coolest part of BreakTweaker and the reason to own it. So I hope that helps. So you have, let's say, the kick, and you can solo. You've got a mute. Here's where you hit the editor, and you can see there's actually 3 different what they call generator lanes. Think of them as layers. So you can have up to 3 layers put onto one note for one sound that is made. And this sound actually is using both a sample and a synth. And if we want, we can solo by hitting the little S button right here. So it's emphasizing the kick drum with a sine wave, which is a great way to go. And when you're working with the synth engine, one thing that's very cool is every one of the waveforms is actually a wave table. And clicking right here will allow you to cycle. Even the basic standard wave table is like 12 different waveforms. And when we get to the editor in a bit, you can do some really, there's a ton of presets that take advantage of the wave table concepts that you can get really flexible, crazy harmonic stuff happening right here. Okay, so you've got that for the editor. Here's your trigger button. Here is where you can go to loading a generator preset. And this is one of my big complaints, is that there is a library of over 2 gigabytes of samples, 4,000 samples. And I believe the total number, if you add these up, the demo ones are replicated in their own category, so don't count the demo. If you don't count the demo, there's 69 presets. So out of 4,000 samples, you have 69 presets, which means if you, the user, wants to get into using this, you have to go to the edit button, you have to set it up as a sample, and then you click right here to go into their library. Go to kick. Here's all these different categories of kick. There's another cool thing where they have a discover button, which does this interactive, internet-based. On the character of the sound, it will find similar sounds. Here we go. So it found this list of sounds that I could change that are similar sounding. It's not based on a key search or keywords, and it's only with the factory library. That's very cool. Still, right here, where most people that don't know how to program and they don't want to get into programming, and most people don't want to get into programming unless they have to, there's only 13 kick presets. So that's a really big ding in this library. It's a $250 library, and they give you 13 kick presets. Anyway, it's what it is, right? So right here is a really cool option. This is the speed playback, and you can take it to a 1/3 speeds, which means it's going to take 6 rotations on this one track to equal 1 rotation of this at 1 speed. You can also go to 3 times speed right down here, or anywhere in between. Be aware that if it's not 1 time speed, it no longer is matching the tempo and resolution of meter in your sequencer. Here's your volume gain, pan. And then here's where you click and double click to make things go away. So this is the bar that you drag to determine how long the track is. One word that was a little disappointing when I started working with this, It would be really nice if different patterns could be different lengths to the track, different multiplies, different gains, different pans. It's not. You set it, and that's the way it is for everything. So if you wanted to do some sort of a really cool breakdown in the middle of your song where you set it like this for your links for this one track, so it's doing all this polyrhythmic crazy stuff, when you go to all your tracks, you're going to notice they're all set to that length. So be aware of that. You want to think ahead of time, set it up so that you're going to have a track be the longest that track needs to be for one of your patterns. There's some really cool tools. For example, if I wanted, I could select all of these and go up here and just say copy. And then the first one's right there. So say right here, paste. So now I've doubled the length and then I've doubled the pattern by just copy and paste. So you can do that to get to the longest length you're going to need for that specific track. But it's just disappointing because there's times where you'll want a certain rhythm pattern to be short and then on another pattern be long and different, but you can't do that. Just be aware. That's how it works. The other big issue for many people is, and including myself, is that the display curiously only shows you 75% of the groove that's currently being played if you're using a 2-measure pattern. You have to click and drag or scroll with your mouse. Either way, you do this all the time. So get used to doing this if you make it to be a 2-measure pattern. It's interesting if you say new, and you say start new with yes. It makes it a 1-measure pattern. So they were aware of this as an issue and we're not able to fix it. And I hope in an update they can fix it because it's just, in this day and age, to have an interface where you're having to go up here and do that to keep working on the pattern is it's not nice. Over here at the far right is your output assignment. You can click here and choose which output you want it to be at. It's just as easy as going to Isotope in Logic Pro, for example. It's really easy to just go multi-output. And now all I have to do is I just go to this guy and hit a +1, and now that sound that I had on that output is now ready to go to that output. Okay, so, and if you have it like this and you change presets, be aware it's set, and calling up different presets up here is not going to change the output assignment. If you set this to be output 2 and set this to be output 3, from here on out that you work with this plugin in this song, those 3 outputs are wired up to be independent outputs. Continuing our journey on the interface, let's do this. Let's call up a dubstep aggressive synth pattern. Actually, I want to play with this one because this is one of the cooler ones. Sludge Rocket. So this one's cool. I wish there was more variety. You've got 12 patterns and it's all kind of almost the same. I wish they would break it up a little bit more, but it gets you the idea of the cool sounds and the vibe and the mix up of patterns. Down here is a really cool parameter. I love to use latch and then turn off the retrigger. So that way I can play it. Now I can change patterns anytime. And it keeps playing from wherever it was at in the cycling. So like, so you can play with it in a more interactive way. Play the same note again and that turns it off, which is nice. Up here is like a bus compressor. Give you some nice pumping. Be aware if you send things to independent outputs, they no longer are listening to this bus compressor. They're not being processed anymore. Oh, make sure you use sync. When you say new, I have found that a new preset does not have sync turned on. So please make sure you turn this on if you say new. So I'm going to go through some of the different categories of patterns. And if you notice, it's really aimed strictly, for the most part, at modern dance styles. I'm going to show you each of the categories that it comes shipped with patterns for. It comes with dubstep, electro, hip hop, minimal, retro, cinematic textures, vintage machines, and a third one of kicks and snares, and it has some percussion in there too. Are 3 libraries that for $50 you can add on when you buy BreakTweaker. And for the most part, I would recommend it, especially if you're a video game or sound or film kind of guy. Especially cinematic textures has some great samples, and a whole bunch of patterns. But in dubstep, here's some of the patterns. Different programmers work differently. So this guy, SP, he likes starting at the very bottom with the minimal stuff. So C is. And then about F sharp, like the middle of the pattern, that's where the groove is. And then above that, it gets busier. That's what I jammed with at the very beginning. So again, glitch, glitch, glitch. You'll see when we get to making a pattern how easy it is to do these types of things. All right, hip hop. Now, one thing to say about hip hop before I play anything, one big feature missing from BreakTweaker, there's no swing parameter. So hip hop is pretty heavy on the swing for most cases. So this is more trap step type of stuff. Let's go Zen bass. Okay. One thing that iZotope could have done that I'll show you how to do real quickly is every pattern has 6 sounds. If you go to this guy and click here and hit save, let's see, that's the kick, so go to the kick and save. We'll call this MB since it's bumps. Kick and save. Did it save it? Yeah. Close. So now if I go here, I should see under kick this, right? It doesn't take that long. Go up here, go to hat, save, dirty 808, open. Or if we wanted to, we could call it bumps, since that way we know by name what things went together by the name. So we could say save. Look over here. Let's go to the snare. If we want a new category for claps, we could say new category claps and say save. This is bumps. Flange claps. Flange quality too. So you could go through and build up a library. Go to the synth, save. This is bumps, falling, synth. And then this is synth, save, bumps, pitch up, ringer. Just making up names. Save. I've just added 6 generator presets to the 39 in about 30 seconds. So if you want, you could go through any of these patterns, call it up, play the notes. That's a cool layer of a snare. Find it, go here, go to the snare, save. So this is trapped, so trapped. Dub layer. Save. So you could do that to build up the library pretty quickly. That's all we had in the hip hop. Minimal, quite a few here. Another one where almost every pattern's the same. These last couple are kind of sound designy, which is kind of cool. I like his idea in the programming. Good variety. So low C, SP loves to do stuff where the bottom is minimal, then F sharp. And then retro. Let's play a couple retro. I like that. Cool variety. So different programmers are going to give you different types of approaches. Some believe in just like slight variations depending on the style. Oh, this is one that's... I don't know why this isn't in dubstep. Okay, so you get the idea. Now, cinematic textures. I'm going to show you some of the patterns to show you also the sounds for the two libraries that are optional libraries that you can add. There's a lot of really good stuff in the cinematic textures patterns. So let's start with burst. You get the idea. This is just one pattern. And you can see they're starting to use multipliers. Like this pattern here is halftime, so it takes 2 times around. So it makes it a 4 major pattern. So after you get past the abstract, there's action. So let's go to Barnes. Playing different notes, calling them to different patterns. And if you're wondering what pattern it is when I'm playing something, you go, oh, that sounds really cool. Just look at the pattern list right here. The one that's lit with the lighter color is the one that's currently being played. You can also see up here, I've got a little keyboard so you can see. It's a tension category. In fact, there's one thing I wish. In this library, there's all sorts of really creative micro edit stuff going on that have cool curves, cool slope types, all sorts of things. I wish there was a way to save these presets so you can have a preset list that you could call up later on to quickly make your micro edits, but there's currently not. So Isotope, add that too, please, to the list. Very cool. The sound quality of the samples, both in the factory library and here, are really, really good. Great stuff to play with. They did a good job with cinematic textures. Vintage Machines, they also did a pretty good job. There's a lot of patterns. There's a lot of different things, but it's not what I picture when you call it Vintage Machines. So I guess 909. Click. So here's what I was talking about where it has the 3/2 timing. In fact, they don't even sync this up to the host of your sequencer. They just set it to 92 beats per minute and turn off sync. So now you can play it And you have to set your sequencer to 92, and then you'll be tight. But it's not synced to the host, so it's not guaranteed 100%, but you'll be close enough for sampler days, I'm sure. It'll be pretty cool. Let's go to a couple of others that they have here. Darkroom Techno. Good minimal stuff. Here's Ghost Live. LED burn. Rock the Disco. Kind of sounds like it should be a Beck album with the Dust Brothers playing along. And then finally, let's go to Trap Alarm. Cool. This kind of stuff with the patterns and the hi-hats going crazy is so easy to do. The reason is because right here, you micro edit the timing value right here, 30-second notes, 16th notes, 128th, dotted. And you click preview if you want to hear just a certain event to hear what it sounds like. So then you put that in with everything else. So there's a run through of the patterns. Now notice one thing. This is on a 6-core, 3.5 gigahertz machine. So it's got one core running at 3.5 gigahertz. And I'm not having that many audio problems with this. I have another computer in here that's a Mac Pro. That's an older one that's running with an older Xenon early generation processor, and it could do 3 tracks before it started to really struggle. Before you buy this, you should definitely download the demo to work with it and make sure it works with your way of thinking. It's not one of those where you program it in a traditional sense. You program it by clicking around here. So it's kind of a new way to program, which I think might appeal to some of you guys. So anyway, let's start from scratch in a minute and make one super patch. Okay, so hang on, here we go. Okay, for this last section, we're going to make a groove from scratch. And I thought it'd be fun since a lot of the samples are from BT, even though there is no patterns and grooves and sounds that are programmed by him. There's a track of his that I really like called Tomahawk. And so I went and I found samples that will sound very similar to that. So we're going to make a groove that's based on that and then play around with it and add some more stuff to it. So track 1, let's call it the sub kick. And let's hit the editor button. And here's where you see your 3 layers. This one actually takes 2. So we go, let's choose sample. We'll choose synth later for something else. And let's go to kick. And basic should have been just called the BT bank because it's all BT samples, you can see. And we want we want T sub. And we want sample right here, kick, basic. All right, so we want Tarragon punch. Now in the recording, there's actually like a little bit brighter sound to this. So what we're gonna do is go Tarragon punch, and let's hit solo so we can hear what we're gonna do just to this. We're on envelope 1, which is the amp. And I'm going to bring it down so just get mainly the high little zip of the attack, because the sub is going to be doing the actual big body. And then here on the distortion, you've got 6 different types of distortion. And there's a cool trick where if you use like warm, it doesn't change the sound that much, but tone is available to brighten the sound. So you layer that with Here's without it. Here's with it. Here's without this. And here's with it. So you can get the right setting. Okay. For the snare, it's also a layer of 2 sounds I found. So let's go sample and go to snare basics, okay, and snare top hat. That's his, actually, tuned up 1, let's see. And then another sample of a clap. So we go here to clap and we go to electro and it's number clap 3. And then we go to number 3. To sample, we want to have a hi-hat closed. Basic should again be called BT. And let's go finding hat 808 closed 1. Hat 909 808 closed 1. And for this one, we're going to use envelope 1. And then here's your curvature, and it's actually nice and sensitive. On the right, you can get to percentages. And if you can't, you can hold down the command key and then get. And then there's this open hi-hat sound that happens every now and then in the groove. Sample, and it's hi-hat unique. So hi-hat, there's a ton of hi-hats. Really great, nice ton resource, great variety, different EQ settings and stuff. Since it doesn't have built-in EQ per se, and it doesn't have processing and limiting, a lot of work went into the samples being unique and optimized. So I do appreciate that for sure. So let's find hat unique right there. Okay. And then to make the pattern, you just click, and there is no velocity setting per se for this part. So kick snare. And then right here's the open. Right here's the open. And then play C. Take this down and pitch a little bit. Oh, when you're playing this, you have to make sure that you hold the envelope out. Let's turn it down. Okay. So let's go over here to, I wanted the effect to be a glitchy kind of sound, and I found a couple of cool things. So let's go sample. Glitch, and this is towards the end, if I recall. There's, like I said, tons of samples, tons of stuff to work with and play with. Glitch whiz, which one? That one, 48. And then the last sound we're going to make from the synth engine. So let's go to synth. Now, what happens, and when you say synth for a layer, is comes up with a sine wave. One thing that's a little aggravating, you'll find out throughout the entire interface, the mouse is always running at a coarse setting. It's not at a fine setting. Like when I was on the directory looking through samples, when I move the mouse up and down, it's actually skipping in the directories, which is not good. Here it's also skipping. See how I can't get it to be. I have to actually hold down command, and now it goes to fine. And now I can click on this, and that's how I get it to be a perfect sawtooth waveform. Oh, there's one more thing I want to show you, and that is even down here on C4, I'm going to call up Voxango span. So I want to show you the waveform is got all this additional aliasing noise in there. Call up Spire. It's softer, so let's make it louder. See how nice that is? Let's go back to BreakTweaker. There's not supposed to be all that in-between harmonic sound. That's called aliasing. And as you go up the range, the aliasing gets even stronger. If we go to BreakTweaker and take the pitch, just hear that side banding. So the engine itself has some fairly decent issues as far as sonics. It is able to go to dual oscillator and have a number of different synthesis modes used, and those get even more problematic because of that aliasing in each oscillator. It causes all sorts of additional harmonic bands and artifacts to be introduced that shouldn't be there. So one thing I do know that they are aware of and they're working to fix at Isotope is the engine to be more of a pure, higher quality engine, because it's got some sonic issues to just start with before you even have added anything else to it. So just be aware, it's not a synthesizer. You can't play chords. You can't play it across the keyboard. It's to played as one note and then to be set up into the patterns and so forth. So it's kind of in your face synthesis, but it should be better than that. It's got some quality issues that need to be improved. Basically what you have here, as you can see, is two oscillators, and right here is where you choose from a fairly decent, I think there's 99 or so different wavetables, and they go all over the place. And instead of your traditional wavetables that start from one waveform and go to another, these go through a whole bunch. The reason it's so flexible is because with one note, playing one pattern, you can set up with LFOs to get a whole variety of different types of sounds from that one note. So let's do that. Let's set this up to be kind of cool and maybe a little obscene. That'll be good in our groove. So we're going to go to the LFO, to waveform 1. This right here is your LFO shapes, and there is no number to this. There is no number. At least these have names, which is helpful. But you don't even have like a value that you can visually see for when you're going through the wavetables. I think that's a mistake, because if you're trying to teach someone synthesis and you say you wanted to set at X and X percentage, I mean, synthesis is all about absolute numbers and the right values, and then you get the right sound. And here you don't know what the right sound is compared to if you're teaching students how to program. You can't say go waveform number 45. There is no number. So you get to these, how do you describe that as a waveform when there's no number? So I hope they will look at making, as you got helpful tips, but they don't show you the value. There's nowhere to see values, which I think is not very helpful. So let's go here to something kind of out there and variety. Let's go to something like this. And we want to set to sync, and we don't want it to restart. And let's have that be the LFO that's... Now we can change to different waveforms. You're starting to hear some of that aliasing. Anyway, you can see the variety of waveform shapes that you're going through now. It shows you the starting and the ending. Another thing that's cool is, say you want to have it be this much. If you double click on one of these nodes, this happens on all the controller pages. It's now a fixed width, so you can click and drag. Let's have restart on for a minute. Let's keep restart on for this for now. Okay, number 2 layer. Let's have that also be synthesis. So synth. let's say F. And let's have that LFO also be doing something to a like an aliasing or something. Let's go LFO1. There's a filter, and you can have it be pre-distortion or post. Now this filter is a little unique in that there's 3 different types of character to the filter, and then you have 3 different types of filters once you've selected that. So if you say brick wall, you actually only have the low pass and the high pass. New York, you have resonance. On the last one, the brick wall, you don't even have resonance as a parameter you can change. It's preset, but it makes a really cool sound. It's got an interesting digital character to it that these don't have. That's kind of cool. So let's have an envelope get us to that point. This LFO envelope is envelope 2, so go right here. Check this out. This is what's supposed to be, the linear is right, supposed to be right here, so it goes. And it's definitely not doing that. So the shapes are busted right now, so that has to get fixed. There you go. Let's have it do that. Let's have it do. It's pre-distortion, so you still hear what it did. It put this before the distortion, so the aliasing is happening after the filtering, so you still hear some aliasing even when that gets dark, which is nice. And let's have this do some panning by an LFO, so let's say LFO2. Here's your minimum range, and LFO2. Sync. Let's say half note to start with. All right, so let's get back to our pattern, see what we got going on here. We need to make our pattern. So let's make the kick, 3, 4 snare. And the hi-hat, 2, 3, 2. And the open hi-hat. Okay. Now let's get fun with glitch. Let's take this, and if you click and drag this to be a quarter note, okay? Down here, you see the micro edit parameters, and let's click and bring up the divisions to say 16. Yeah, there we go. So it's doing 16 repeats. And then we can take tension and have it go. And you might think it might need to be perfect 16th notes, and then you do the tension. I found that when you start using tension, you need more steps and divisions to get it to kind of feel like it's falling out of time of the 16th note pattern. That's cool. Let's go to the mix and have the kick be louder. Bring up the compressor. Same way, that's what we want for the first groove, right? And then for this group, we want something else different. And I'm not playing with the length right now. I would go and make these longer for the final, you know. So let's copy this. Pattern, copy. Pattern, paste. And let's glitch this out to be even differently, like say really high values and not. Oh, show you a couple other things that are cool. If you set this to a high value, come the tone. And if you want, you can actually go to pitch and it'll do it that way. The nice difference with pitch versus divisions, if it's divisions and you change tempo, let's go to divisions. So it's repeating so fast it's made a pitch, right? If I change tempo, I turn on sync, it's changing pitch based on the tempo, because playing the divisions slower or faster. We don't want that. We want it to stay consistent. So we want to set the divisions to pitch. Now wherever we go tempo-wise, okay. Now right here is a really cool set of parameters. The slope allows you to get in here and actually change to different mathematical, faster, slower. You know, tension will do this thing where it goes from really fast to really slow. Right? In fact, if we want, we can go in here and turn retrigger off, so it's just gating it, which is cool. But what's nice with these other curvature sets is that they can go fast, slow, fast, slow. Let's go up and pitch. So if we set this to something like this and higher pitch, so it's the same, but I've changed the micro edit parameters for the second pattern to make that from just a regular. Copy that pattern, paste. Let's have this so you get the idea. We've just made 3 patterns. We've got the elements already of a song. This is a really cool way of composition. It's different than playing from the keyboard and stuff. It's twerky, but it's a fun way to play. You can do some creative things that you wouldn't have thought of. This can do things that nothing else can do. So it's a really, you know, it's not a perfect plugin. There's room for improvement. But hopefully I've shown you that there's some really cool abilities inside here. I mean, we haven't even covered everything that it can do. Let's take this. Let's copy this. Actually, we don't even need this. We're just going to go to this one and we're going to create a nice... There's so many tricks. My gosh. In April, when the Power Pack comes out, I'll do another video showing you more tricks and things you can do. Fade in is really, really useful. You could say set this to 30-second notes. Actually, let's go to time, and let's say 64th notes. You can actually control the curvature of where you want it to hit the top of the range, and I'm putting it all the way here to the end. So let's have it go. Tune, 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 tune. And then bring these down in velocity. I think it's volume. It doesn't seem to be velocity in the same way that you think. There's actually, when you're playing the sounds from down here, there's velocity, but there's no velocity setting anywhere to change. So you always have velocity. Now we want these to be longer, so let's extend these to be longer so we get more of the tail. And let's take this pattern and copy and paste right here. And let's make this into little tiny pieces like quarter notes. Copy. And this one, let's have an effect put on it. Let's say aliasing. And let's have it paste another one. And let's have this effect be raw, really loud and boisterous. And let's have this one be just one note that's held out. This one go up and up. So you can keep building and building, and I'll keep building and building. I'm going to save this to the Power Pack. This is Techno. Just call it Tomahawk. This should be like that. Okay, you get the idea. Don't go glitchy too much. It's a rather recognizable sound, but there's ways to use it where it's very cool and new. So find those ways. It's a great plugin for that kind of stuff. So I hope this video has helped you understand what you can do with this plugin and can appreciate it because it is cool. And I hope iZotope can continue developing this and make it even better than it is now. All right. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you in another video soon. Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.